freedom. Everyone talks about it. Few actually feel it, because most people don't realize they're not trapped by laws or jobs or obligations. They're trapped by attachment to people, to opinions, to outcomes, to identities they outgrew but still cling to because they're familiar. The real prison? It's in the mind. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They weren't emotionless. They were unshaken. Not because life didn't test them, but because they refused to let those tests define them. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. He lost children. He was betrayed. But through it all, he wrote one thing again and again. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That was his anchor, his armor, his freedom. Detachment, in the Stoic sense, isn't cold indifference. It's clarity. It's the ability to hold everything, success, love, reputation, even pain, with an open hand. Grateful for it, but never dependent on it. Because the moment something must go your way for you to be at peace, you've given that thing control over your life. You don't own it anymore. It owns you. This is why people who seem successful still feel trapped. They have more, but they need more. They can't lose, can't be criticized, can't sit still. That's not power. That's a cage. Gold-plated maybe, but still a cage. The Stoic path? It breaks that. Not by having less, but by needing less. Not by disconnecting from life, but by refusing to be ruled by it. Most people confuse detachment with apathy, but they're not the same. Apathy is avoidance. Detachment is mastery. Apathy says, I don't care. Detachment says, I care, but I'm not controlled by the outcome. That's the Stoic edge. It's the difference between feeling something and being enslaved by it. We get attached to more than just people. We cling to validation, to titles, to routines, even to pain, because it's familiar. And the more we cling, the more fragile we become. Our peace depends on things staying a certain way. But life doesn't ask for permission to change. It will shift. People will leave, plans will fail, expectations will break, and if your identity is wrapped around them, you break too. Seneca wrote, "He is most powerful who has power over himself, not over others, over himself." Detachment is that power. It's waking up each day and saying, I don't need things to go my way in order to remain myself. That's not detachment from effort. It's detachment from outcome. You still show up. You still love deeply. You still lead fiercely, but you don't crumble when results don't mirror your hope, because your identity doesn't rise and fall with every wave. The Stoic doesn't reject life. He just refuses to be owned by it. He engages fully, but clings to nothing. He expects resistance, accepts loss, honors joy, but doesn't depend on it. That's the real flex. To enjoy things fully and still be free to walk away when they try to own you, because nothing you cling to will ever set you free. If this is landing, if something deep in you is saying, this is what I've needed, that's because part of you is done with being owned. Owned by overthinking, owned by other people's expectations, owned by your own fear of letting go. You're not weak. You've just never been taught that peace doesn't come from getting more. It comes from needing less. That's the Stoic path. Not to detach from meaning, but to detach from madness. To remove the noise that says, you'll be enough when, and replace it with stillness, with strength, with clarity. And that's what this space is. Not a channel, a reset point, a reminder that you don't need to keep chasing to feel whole. You need to remember what it means to stand still and not flinch. So if this message cuts through the noise for you, subscribe. Not because you're a fan, because you're ready. Ready to practice this, to train your attention, to own your response, to live by a deeper code. This isn't motivation. This is a return to yourself, to discipline, to a kind of freedom no one can give you and no one can take from you. We're not here to impress. We're here to detach, and in that detachment, lead. Let's move from principle to practice, because detachment isn't just a mindset, it's a method, a daily process of training your mind to let go, not out of weakness, but out of strength. Here's how the Stoics would build it if they were alive right now. First, audit your emotional anchors. Ask yourself, What am I clinging to that controls me? Could be approval, a relationship, an image, a number on a screen. Write it down, name it, because what you refuse to confront, you'll never release. Second, voluntary discomfort. The Stoics practiced this constantly. Fasting, cold, silence. Why? Because detachment isn't built in comfort. It's revealed in resistance. When you strip away small luxuries by choice, you prove to yourself that you're not dependent. You don't break when the world doesn't bend to your preferences. Third, pre-rehearsal of loss. Seneca called it premeditatio malorum, imagining loss, failure, even death. Not to become numb, to become ready. When you pre-live the fall, you walk lighter in life. You hold blessings with gratitude, not anxiety, because you've already accepted their impermanence. Fourth, identity separation. You are not your job, not your relationship, not your achievements. The Stoic detaches who he is from what he experiences. He says, "This is what I'm facing, not who I am." That's the line that keeps your peace intact when life unravels. And last, presence over possession. Every time your mind grasps at more likes, more control, more certainty, pause, breathe, remind yourself, nothing I truly need can be taken from me. That's the daily drill. You don't escape life, you just stop worshiping it. Detachment doesn't make you care less, it makes you fear less. And from that space, you move cleaner, sharper, freer, not above life, but within it, finally untied. As you practice this way of being, of releasing, observing, responding without grasping, something strange happens. You stop chasing, not out of laziness, but out of clarity. You no longer confuse motion with meaning, noise with value. People notice, but they don't understand. Why aren't you rushing? Why aren't you panicking? Why aren't you reacting like everyone else? Because you're not hooked like everyone else. You still work, still love, still fight for what matters, but you don't need it all to go your way to remain yourself. That's the shift. Your sense of peace stops being rented by the world and starts being owned by you. This kind of detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you consistent. It gives your presence weight. When others are emotionally tangled in outcomes, you're centered. When people press you for a reaction, you pause. You no longer move from insecurity, you move from intention. And that shift, it changes everything. You listen better, speak cleaner, think deeper. You start seeing people not as threats or tools, but as humans. You stop using your goals to prove your worth and start using them to express it. And perhaps most powerfully, you become less afraid of loss, because now you know everything external is borrowed, and you were never meant to carry it forever. The only thing you own is how you show up, and when that becomes enough, you become unstoppable. Now you see it. Detachment isn't about running from life, it's about standing inside it, unshaken. It's not about feeling nothing, it's about feeling everything, without letting it own you. This is what the Stoics trained for, to walk through loss without collapse, through noise without panic, through pressure without breaking. Because freedom isn't comfort, it's control, not over the world, but over yourself. The world will keep pulling at you. More news, more wants, more noise, but you don't have to grip it. You can let it pass, let it swirl, and still be still. That's the flex, not needing life to behave in order for you to be whole. And the more you practice this detachment, not in theory, but in silence, in stress, in solitude, the more untouchable you become. You'll walk into chaos and remain calm. You'll lose and stay centered. You'll love deeply, work fiercely, speak clearly, and let go instantly when it's time, because nothing owns you anymore. And that is freedom. So now the question becomes, what would your life look like if you stopped clinging to everything you're afraid to lose, and just started living like you were already free?